The matchup of Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Kelvin Gastelum was announced for the September 16th Mexican Independence Day card in Vegas, headlined by Grasso versus Shevchenko 2 on a UFC fight night. It's nice having a championship fight night card headlined by the women, I guess. It's nice they're bringing that back to fight night cards and not headlining pay-per-views as much as people like Nunes. It does get a little, it allows the UFC to put on an iffy card in general. So I like them putting it back on fight night cards. But this matchup, Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Kelvin Gastelum, I'm super excited for it. In general, I think people might not be too excited because Kelvin Gastelum, coming from middleweight outside the top 10, will be fighting number 6 Shavkat Rakhmonov in this matchup. So I think some people might be a little off about it. But in general, who is Shavkat going to fight at this point? Welterweight doesn't really move, and I like that he's being active. So just going through welterweight, Colby Covington's fighting Leon Edwards, and then who do you have? Kamaru Usman, who all of a sudden goes back to Kill Cliff after training with Gaethje and Rose over there in Colorado, is now over in Florida training at Kill Cliff all of a sudden when a potential match between him and Shavkat happens. I'm just putting that out there. Gilbert Burns, of course, injured after fighting Bilal Muhammad, but they do train together as well at Kill Cliff. Bilal Muhammad just beat Gilbert Burns on short notice and has already pretty much, I don't want to say ducked, but he skipped out on the Shavkat fight when it was offered to him. So there's that as well. Who else is in that top 5 right now? I can't even think about it. I think I covered, Khamzat Chimaev. We don't even know what's going on with him. I think Kamaru Usman wants to fight with him. I'm pretty sure Khamzat even offered like a catchweight. I don't even know what's going on with that matchup. A lot of people are saying that matchup's likely to happen for the October card. I'll believe it when I see it. I just don't think the UFC really wants to do a catchweight bout for Khamzat. If they do fight, it'll probably be at 170. And I don't know, Kamaru Usman's moving up to 185 because Izzy's the champion. So welterweight doesn't really move at this point. And honestly, I think the only guy freed up at this point is, Neil Magny, because he just had a fight done, and I think everyone's pretty much booked. So this matchup I think is going to be very entertaining. Kelvin Gastelum, known as a very, very tough dude. Shavkat Rakhmonov been on a roll, 17-0, 100% finish rate, especially even in the UFC against some good fighters as well. I guess Neil Magny, he finished. I guess it depends on who you are if you want to say he's a good fighter, but he's a solid gatekeeper for that division. And then he just finished Jeff Neal as well. And Jeff Neal's no joke. Even though he did lose to Neil Magny, he is no joke in general. So Shavkat is going to be, I don't want to say he's going to have his hands filled with Kelvin Gastelum here, because Kelvin Gastelum used to middleweight at this point. I believe, I don't even know how many fights. How many fights has he had at middleweight? I don't know if I can get the statistic here, but he's had a very decent career at middleweight after starting at welterweight in his career. I believe after the Johnny Hendricks fight, beat Tim Kennedy, beat Vitor Belfort, but that fight didn't end up going through because I believe he tested positive for marijuana, so it becomes a no contest. It probably should be reversed at this point, but I don't know. I guess it is somewhat of an advantage, and I don't know. I'm not going to go over that, but has fought in the middleweight division ever since. Had some early success, but recently was this math won or lost 5 of his last 7 fights. So Kelvin Gastelum's looking to move back down to welterweight. We'll see if he makes weight. I think he has had some weight issues in the past, which is why he moved up to middleweight. But I think a lot of people did want him to move down to welterweight because his stomach is it's not as chiseled as some of the other middleweight fighters in general. It doesn't look like he actually fits middleweight, even though he is kind of a stockier dude. But a lot of people wanted him to cut down to welterweight and figure that out again. But he got the matchup with Shavkat Rakhmonov, a very, very good welterweight surging contender in that division. So this is going to be really tough for Kelvin Gastelum in this matchup. But Kelvin Gastelum moving down weight classes, this could be a really big problem for him in general. Obviously, cutting weight, will his chin not be as strong in general, especially at 31 years of age, almost 32 years of age by the time this fight happens, so he'll probably be 32. Taking quite a bit of damage in his career at middleweight. How's the weight cut going to affect him in this matchup is going to be important. The different speed at middleweight, because a lot of guys, especially moving from welterweight to middleweight, although the sample size isn't great, we see Whitaker move out there. Guys that move up to welterweight, the speed is a little bit different in middleweight. And middleweight, it's just, I don't even try middleweight anymore. You got the top 2 guys, and then I feel like it's open. Maybe Jared Cannonier fits in that pool now, but middleweight is just weird in general. But I think if you have some very skilled fighters at welterweight, they should think about, and they're a little bit on the heavier side, they should think about moving up, because I feel like they would do really good at middleweight. But in general, Kelvin Gastelum moving down from middleweight. I think it's just a different speed at welterweight. And it is, again, 170 compared to 185. Some of those 185ers could probably be 205ers, and they cut down a little bit of weight, and they're fighting a little bit slower. It's just a different speed other than like a Whitaker or a Adesanya, who are just at a different speed than everyone else. So I think that's going to be interesting in this matchup. And again, how does the durability of Kelvin Gastelum like fit in this matchup? Because again, he's known to be super tough. He can take a lot of shots. He can scrap. He scrapped with what's his name? He scrapped with Chris Curtis in his last matchup. Ended up winning that fight because of a accidental headbutt. At least in my opinion, I think if the judges saw the accidental headbutt, they would probably give it to Curtis. But again, Gastelum kind of, it was a close fight, so you can't really take that away from Gastelum. But how does the weight cut affect Gastelum durability wise? Will he be able to take some of the hammer that sounds really weird, some of the big shots off Rakhmonov in this matchup? I guess we'll kind of find out. But Rakhmonov, good hands, a lot of power in his hands. He doesn't really move his head too much. I see a couple of videos of him like rolling with some of the shots, but I don't know. It's not that great of head movement in my opinion. He does keep his head kind of straight down on the center line a little bit. He does, again, roll with the punches a little bit more, but it's not perfect. So I think this will be more of a scrap, kind of like what you see with the Jeff Neal fight. But I think the durability of Rakhmonov will definitely be a lot more than Kelvin Gastelum, especially after all the big fights that Gastelum has had with the weight cut. It's going to be rough on him. I think Rakhmonov, I don't know if he can get the KO, but all I'm going to say is this: 17-0, and before his last matchup against Jeff Neal, he had 8 TKO KOs and 8 submissions. He now has 9 submissions, and I feel like the balance, there has to be some kind of balance within the force of Shavkat Rakhmonov. So maybe he gets a KO and it gets even again, 9-9. Who knows? But I think the power of Shavkat might be a little bit more here. I think he's going to go to the body a little bit. I don't know if he's going to go for takedowns. Gastelum's pretty decent with the takedowns, so I don't know if that'll be too much of a thing for Rakhmonov. I think he was on the feet with Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal did defend some of the takedowns pretty well, so that wasn't too much of a threat there, but he kind of just stayed on the feet with him, and I think he'll do the same thing here with Kelvin Gastelum. I think it'll be 100% on the feet. Maybe he hurts Gastelum and then puts him in a sub on the ground, but I see Rakhmonov getting a finish here. I think he keeps the streak going. I feel like it kind of has to at this point. I think it'll be more of a question during his title fight or his future title fight, but Shavkat Rakhmonov running through welterweight. We'll see what happens with him. I have him winning probably in the later rounds. Again, submission or KO, it's kind of uncertain, but I kind of want to see what the durability of Gastelum looks like, and we don't really know that until he starts taking shots. So maybe possibility Shavkat Rakhmonov TKO in the later rounds or submission in the later rounds, just like hurting Gastelum to the body a little bit more. So far in Tapology, there's like 32 predictions, and 94% of them are from or for Rakhmonov. 60% by submission, 17% by TKO. I don't know. I feel like I can go either way there. I think a lot of people saying submission is because of the durability of Kelvin Gastelum and how tough he is. So I think submission is probably the best bet here. But we'll see. There is a potential for a TKO in this matchup. We'll see what happens. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know who you guys think will win in this matchup down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.